Good evening and welcome to another edition of Filmnut. I am your host, Jeff Schubert. Glad you can join us. Well, television history is filled with storied romances. From Sam and Diane on Cheers to Ross and Rachel on Friends, there are certain relationships that are just meant to be. TV's latest pairing is actually a bromance. That's friends, not lovers, yet soulmates nonetheless. My guest tonight plays Morgan Grimes on the hit show, NBC show I should say, Chuck. Prior to that, we got to know him for a season on Without a Trace. He's also big in the gaming world, having done a lot of voiceover work there, so we'll get into that a little bit with him as well. I am very much looking forward to talking to Josh Gomez. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing good. Wow, Sam and Diane.
Sam, I'm comparing you and Bartowski.
Fine company. Yeah. Me and Bartowski up there with Sam and Diane. Well,
yeah, no, it's a great team. Not only you guys, the whole cast. I was telling you before we came on. I think it's a big part. Chuck is a lot of fun. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, season 1 is available on DVD. Season 2 is coming soon. And congratulations on recently hearing that it was picked up for season 3.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
But a ton of fun. And again, I think because you guys make the situations real to you, you know, these far out scenarios.
Right.
And that's what makes it so, you know, so enjoyable to me as a viewer watching it now.
Well, yeah, thank you. It's not a hard job to do for some of us. You know, yeah, I mean, you know, the things that happen at the Buy More and some of these, you know, and even on the Spy World and stuff like that are obviously are far out there, and, you know, but we take it pretty seriously on the set. You know, I mean, when we're at the Buy More, it's a real working store as far as we're concerned, you know.
Yeah, well, and again, your character not being the sharpest person in the world.
Yeah, you know? But he's growing as a person. You know, there's a chewy center there at the core.
Chewy center and a realness and an authenticity to how you deliver your work there.
Yeah, well, thank you again. You know, it's just about the love of the material and the love. You know, when I first started this whole thing, when I first read the script, it was just like, oh, this is so up my alley. You know, as we were talking to, or you know, along with Josh Schwartz and Chris Fidak's love of the '80s and all things '80s and
the creators you just mentioned.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely, right. You know, I grew up in the same thing. So you know, my favorite shows were the sort of big fun, you know, A-Team and you know the far-fetched, you know, just the big fun shows. And so when I read this, I was like, oh, this is a throwback. This is cool. This is like, you know, you have to suspend a certain amount of reality, yes, but once you do and you kind of go along with it, it's a fun ride, you know.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And I really want to thank you again for coming on, because I know the Yankees are playing the Red Sox tonight. So you're not just missing a Yankee game, you are missing a Yankee-Red Sox game to be here.
Bottom of the ninth. It was the bottom of the ninth when I walked in here.
Whoa. So
I don't know.
If anyone's got a final score, I am in it for us.
We're down by a run.
Let us know. We got a question right off the bat here from PSI. He would like to ask you, what is the best thing for viewers to do to make sure Chuck stays on for as many seasons as possible? Well, we know it just got picked up for a third, so definitely watch season 3, right?
I think above everything else, watch season 3. But I think that they showed that when fans do speak out, you know, that it can work. I mean, it was pretty amazing to be a part of this whole ride. From the end of our season 2 to getting renewed for season 3 was just sort of, it was amazing.
Let me ask a couple of questions about that. So season 2 ends, you're not sure if it's going to get picked up for a third season. What was that like for you? Was that?
You know, it was weird. It was like being in purgatory, you know. It was just like we had a party at the end of the year with everybody. We all got together, and it was a great time, but none of us knew whether or not we were saying goodbye or, hey, great season and can't wait to see you in a couple months. And so that was bizarre. But I know, for myself, I think I resigned myself to feeling like, hey, listen, you know, easy come, easy go. And I tried to, you know, just like anything, you know, always negative for me, you know, like just always put myself in the most negative situation. It's gone. The show's over. There's no way it's coming back. And then if it comes back, yay! And so,
there's always the basement in video games, I suppose. Right?
Exactly, believe me.
But I tell you ended on such a high note with, you had the great guest star, Scott Bakula, Chevy Chase, and the finale was so amazing. It was like, oh, how could it end now?
Yeah, and that was the thing. We did a table read for that final episode, and it was just like, we were kind of all giggling, just laughing, because we all started to walk in, and even Chris Fidak, again, one of the creators, was just like, he's like, look at this. Look, not only do I think that I have the greatest cast, you know, my own cast on television kind of thing. But then all of a sudden, here comes Chevy, and here comes Scott, and Morgan Fairchild, and Bruce Boxleitner, and they're all sitting around this table. And even me, when I was sitting there, I was like, I remember doing this pilot and thinking like, there's just no way. And then, you know, here to cut to this table read with all these like legendary, you know, performers is pretty amazing.
Okay, so now let's cut to the good news. Where were you when you found out it was being picked up for season 3, and what was your reaction?
You know, it was again, it was I was you know, really happy, and I was probably on the phone. I think specifically that day, I was on the phone with Ryan McPartlin all day. We'd kind of, you got any news, bro? And you know, we're just like, nothing. I haven't heard anything, and we just were checking, you know, just following online and doing whatever. So we wound up meeting up and going out that night. And so I think we found out as we were meeting up, and so there was some celebration to be had that night.
Hey, you were probably thinking, hey, now I can afford to go to a Yankee game at the new Yankee Stadium because the tickets are so expensive,
exactly, right? Yeah, I know. A ticket there is actually cheaper. I think my plane ticket would be cheaper than going to the stadium. I know, it's unbelievable.
So you actually mentioned a second ago the impact that fans could have,
yeah,
you know, in helping, and we know fans played a role in getting it back for season 3.
Huge, yeah.
So if your fans are watching, is there anything looking right into the camera you'd like to say to them as far as their support and help for the show?
No, absolutely nothing.
No?
No.
Now, it's done now. We're on. I don't need you.
Wait, I got season 3. Yeah. Let's move past that.
Call me when we're done looking for season 4, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No, I've said it before, and we you know, tried to speak out as much as I can, but it was overwhelming. I mean, it was you know, just to be a part of something that that nowadays people genuinely care about was so exciting for all of us, you know, because it, like, again, and nowadays it's so easy come and easy go, and with you know, if your show's not whatever, there's a funny YouTube clip that you could be watching. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, whatever, Chuck's over. You know,
exactly.
So it was pretty cool. That was really amazing. And to be honest, I remember specifically going to the upfronts for the first time, you know, in New York for the show, and the
upfronts for the viewers are?
Upfronts are where the network announced their fall lineups, all their new shows, their returning shows. And it's sort of now being scaled back a bit and stuff. But at the time, one of the last probably few giant events, you know, it was at Radio City Music Hall for NBC, and I just remember it was just such an overwhelming experience. But you know, we did the pilot, and then you sit for a few months on the pilot, you know, and I remember seeing it with, you know, McG directed our pilot, which was amazing. And so I remember seeing the first time with McG, and he sat us down and we watched it, and then, you know, all this time passes, and you're like, I think we got something cool here. I think it's cool, and. But I remember they put the official trailer up for the show, and I sat there with my friends in New York because I was back home, so my friends are around, and I'm like, all right, so we watched the trailer. And they all kind of sat there for about a minute, like, okay, that looks cool. It looks cool. Like, I don't think anybody knew what to think of the show. Then the post started to come in, and it was like, whatever, Jake 3.0. I've seen this before, you know. And I was just like, oh, we're done. We're done. So I just remember that feeling, and then you cut to. Like everywhere you looked on the thing was Save Chuck, boards and posts and sites just coming in, and huge media outlets, you know. I mean, Entertainment Weekly and TV Guide and all these guys, you know. So it was amazing. In 2 years, that sort of turnaround was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. Cupcheck 85. Congrats on your 3rd season of Chuck being picked up. But if you didn't have Chuck, what would you be doing, and what would your ideal role be? And the Red Sox won 6-5.
Well, let me gather myself for a second now. Okay. What was the other question?
Yeah.
I don't know what my ideal role would be. What I wouldn't, if there was no Chuck, I would be.
If the bromance was over.
If the bromance was over, I would just be sitting at home playing more video games, like that, you know.
Well, I heard a rumor, is it true, that you're involved with the next Ghostbusters movie. They're doing a Ghostbusters 3 or something, and I heard you're cast in one of the roles. But there's a rumor floating around that you are.
God, I hope it's true. I have not heard this. I've heard rumblings of this, but no one has officially contacted me. But
were you a fan of the first 2 Ghostbusters?
My phone is on. Just in case. Huge fan. I mean, oh God, both movies. But I mean, I remember seeing it for the first time in the theater with my father and my brother, and then, you know, 37 times later, you know, and you could just, you know, quote lines. I mean, me and Zach on the set, it's always, you know, back and forth with movie lines, and Ghostbusters is quoted quite heavily on our set. So I would be, you know, who knows? But I just, we'll put it out there.
Right.
Available.
It is out there. Let's see. Console Gamer would want to ask you if you get to do any stunts in season 3. Have you seen scripts yet for season 3?
I haven't seen any scripts.
Okay.
But I hope so. I hope that my hopes is that Morgan gets a, you know, I mean, if that there's some you know, some extracurricular stuff going on. You know, I mean, maybe if Bartowski's pulling off all these kung fu moves, you know what I mean? There's some room for some bumbling going on, you know?
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe I could do some stuff. I'd love to. You know, I mean, it's like, again, you know, I remember when Zach found out that he could, you know, when he couldn't do his own real, like he wanted to do everything that he possibly could. Because we're two big kids, you know? So he's like, I can't jump off the elevator. No, Zach, you can't jump off the elevator. It's why you have a stunt guy. Yeah, but okay. So I know, and I got to go. I just, you know, I'm in the same boat, man. I want to jump out of an elevator too.
Well, all I got to say is, when you need some bungling, who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
That's right. There you go. Morgan Grimes. Let's see. Spasma would like to ask: is the store that Chuck works at based on any particular store? One comes to mind. Let's think about that one.
Wendy's. When I first read that, I was sort of weird. I was like, wow, I don't really see the connection. But no, yeah, though, obviously. And Best Buy are actually huge fans of the show. And I think that there was a time when I know they wanted to kind of do both. You know, they want to kind of, and I think that I remember talking to some of the higher ups at Best Buy, like, oh man, we wish we would have known because we would have, you know.
Right.
But then I think, in some respects, would make what happens at the Buy More. I don't know if Best Buy would want that. I don't know if they want some of these faces representing their store.
Well, especially when you're going back and forth torching each other's store. You know?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know, but in hindsight, maybe it was. But yeah, obviously, yeah.
We got another Buy More question from Website Guy. The Buy More looks so real. How do they set that up? Is it really a full store or a set?
You're absolutely right. By the way, it is. I thank you, and I'll pass that along. It is incredible. It is a set. It's a set on the Warner Brothers lot. On our pilot, we actually were at I believe it was an Out of Business Comp USA or something like that. At the time, we weren't shooting on the lot at that point, but so it was like an abandoned Comp USA, or Out of Business Comp USA that we turned into the Buy More, and now it's a full stage on the Warner Brothers lot. But when you walk in, it feels like a living, breathing store. You know, I mean, our set guys did such an amazing job. And so, and anybody, when you walk in there, it's like, holy, and the stage is big. You know, some stages get divided up into different sections. This thing is a giant, huge, big box store, and it's got all those things you see on it, our home theater room, to our break room, and it's a store. You know, it's got the hallways are there, and it's incredible.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got the part. You did Without a Trace first season.
Yeah.
Did you have to audition for this? Did they know that they wanted you?
Oh yeah, I definitely had to audition for it. And no, they did not know. I think by the time it was all said and done, I think I might have done about, altogether it was probably like 8 or 9 auditions.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge, and that's why I think I knew, not only from reading the script, but also for how many hoops I had to jump through, that they knew they had something maybe special on their hands, and they were being extra careful with their casting. But it was, I mean, obviously well worth it. But yeah, it was, they put me through the ringer, and a couple network tests.
So network tests, yeah, I was listening to an interview with Josh Schwartz. He was talking about, okay, so once they cast the Bartkowski role, the Chuck role, then they were going to bring back in their Morgans, because they knew the importance of that relationship.
Right.
And then when you tested with Zachary, who plays Chuck, you guys did a lot of improving. Was that something that they prompted you to do, that you did on your own? Is that normal for actors to take that upon themselves, to just start improving?
I think, you know, whatever, as far as actors are concerned, I think it's whatever you're comfortable with. Some are not, and some are. I tend to be really comfortable. I like it. Some writers in a room don't like it, obviously. Right. They're not, you know, like, I remember writing that, but okay. But what happened was, I think for me, especially specifically in that situation, because I'd gone several auditions, and then one network test, if you've never been in one, is literally the nastiest pressure cooker you could ever be in. You know, it's just, you're in a room full of network executives and you know, who are, you know, trying to handle a, you know, $billion business, and you know, and here I am trying to make them laugh. You know what I mean?
Riding on you.
Yeah. And then this walks in. Yeah. Hey guys. And so it's just like, oh man, it's brutal. So just to survive one of those alive, you're like, oh, And what happened was I went in and did my network test, and then you kind of always feel like, okay, I did it. I did my network test. Whatever happens now, it's out of my hands. I did what I did. Until you get the call on a Friday, which is what happened, that, hey, they want to do another network test on Monday. And like, so you're like, you got to be kidding me. So I got to wait through a whole weekend, go back in on Monday. And the reason they wanted to do that was because they did. The first network test was with no Zach, and then the second one was with Zach. And then I think when I got to that second one, I was like, okay, I got to let this fly because I don't want there to be a third one. So either I get it or I don't. I don't want to come back for a third one. So either they're going to be like, all right, this kid's out of his mind, or it's going to work. And so I just started playing around with Zach, and Zach was right there. It was so much fun. And we knew right then because he just kind of saw this look, like he just started going with it. And so we just started, just being crazy. And I don't know, I think at one point I started making R2-D2 sounds and doing we just went, and they liked it.
Wasn't there something about the toxic levels of your urine?
Yeah, there was a whole scene. Well, there was a scene from if you remember in the pilot, there's a scene it was the scene when we were walking up to he first has his first flash, and that morning I kind of pick him up and he's like in a daze, and I walk him out to the Nerd Herd mobile, and he's like, you drive or whatever. That was one of the audition pieces. And at the end of that, we got into the car, and I think the scene ended with us getting into the car, and in the network test, we kind of get in, and I was just like, oh, dude, you have to roll down your windows or whatever. And he's like, did you just cut one? And Zach was like right there, and I was like, I'm sorry, I had so much dip last night, and I don't know what it is. Dip? It smells like you had. We just kind of, and they were just like, what are these two? People are looking at pages like, oh, what the heck is going on? So, so flatulence. Flatulence is always a key to getting a job.
When in doubt.
When in doubt.
An honest fraud would like to ask, Chuck has had an extensive amount of guest stars. Who are some of the celebrities that Josh would like to appear on Chuck? Are you in on those meetings?
No, unfortunately, because all mine would be animated.
Right.
It'd be Homer Simpson and Stewie Griffin. I think is we the two. I don't know, man. I'm such a fan of so many different.
You mentioned some of them before. What's it like for you when some of these people come on set working with them?
It's so much fun. I'm such a fan and such a geek myself of all this stuff. I grew up, such a fan of television and movies and all that stuff. So to meet Scott Bakula was like a personal favorite just because huge Quantum Leap fan, and he's such a really wonderful guy. Like he's so cool, he's so down to earth, and it's just like talking to him about his career, and just open and you just learn a lot watching him on the set. He comes in on our set, which I thought we had kind of down ourselves after 2 years, and here comes Scott and just like. I'm like, he makes me look ridiculous, He's just like, camera guys are like, we like him better than you, You're like, I know. But he was very cool. And everybody, even our sports guests, like I'm a pretty big sports guy, and so Michael Strahan from the New York Giants, and you had Jerome Bettis from the Steelers. So I get to do these scenes with these massive football players who crush me. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's so much fun.
And what I think Chuck has been doing effectively is bringing on named celebrities, but casting them appropriately. So it's not just stunt casting, if you will. Scott was like perfect for Chuck's dad.
Yeah. Yeah, it somehow works. That was the thing. When we started kind of going down that road, at first it was sort of like, whoa, what are we doing here, And then we realized that it just somehow, it works with our show, as does bringing in a Subway sandwich for Big Mike. Like we found these ways to kind of, and I think that don't offend people. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, I don't think it's, I think it's, it's kind of with a wink and kind of, but yet, not underselling it either, or not like, so yeah, it actually works. It works on the show, yeah.
So last question about getting the part on Chuck is, did you have the beard for the audition, or did they ask you to grow it, or what was up with that?
Oh, why, if I would have known. No, I had the beard. And of course, I remember doing that last test and walking out in the parking lot, going to my car. I think my hand might have still been shaking. You go to your car and like, it's all over. Anyway, they pulled up. Schwartz, I remember seeing Josh Schwartz and McGee and those guys, and they were like, you got it. Don't change anything. Keep the beard, keep whatever. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, keep it all. And of course, 2 years later.
The one thing that made me smile, thinking about what to ask you for this interview and thinking about your beard was like, just imagining like the hair person every time before you go on, having to like stare at it, make sure it's like the same as it was for the previous
It's the most
scene.
bizarre job. Comb it. I mean, she talks to it sometimes. How are you today? And I go, fine. Not talking to you, Josh. How are you today? And she, no, it is funny. The sizing up. She's like, is that really? Is it always this way? And I'm always trying to do different stuff. She'll catch it, I don't think it was this long. She'll pull out the Polaroids. I'm like,
you're like freaking out. You're shaving Derek Jeter's number into your beard.
Exactly. Big 2. What are you talking about? That was there from the pilot.
That's funny. Oh, that's great. So how many directors do you work with on Chuck? Is it the same director every week, or do they rotate, I'm sure?
They do rotate. And you have ones that we bring back in more than once or twice, that are become staples now on our show, and then guys that come in once. But I would say, man, we must have had, I think, over a dozen that I could think of offhand, and it's an interesting experience, to have a guy, different directors.
It's challenging as an actor.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a cool challenge, and it's fun because I don't know, you try to you learn something because you're like, wow, the last guy didn't think about that or didn't talk to me about that, or and to me they kind of always fall in, this is a very simplified way of looking at it, but there's technical directors and then there are like actor type directors, and it's interesting to kind of be directed by both, because we've had guys that come up as cameramen and then turn director and do that kind of stuff, and you could tell they're talking to their camera guys, or talking to their lighting guys, or talking whatever, and the actors, it's like, hey, absolutely, great. You know what I mean? And it's just like they're really concerned with that side of it, which is cool, because you're like, oh, good, I get to run amok. Right. And then you have the other guys who are like, nah, let's not maybe so much with the beard thing, and yeah, but the beard, let's take the beard thing down a little bit. So you get those guys that are like way more hands-on with the actors, and so it's an interesting relationship, yeah.
So I mentioned in the introduction as well that you're involved in a lot of voiceover work for video games, correct?
Yeah, well, and more if you'd like. Again, call me.
What are some of the projects you've worked on? Some of the video games, some of the voiceover work you've done?
I've done some stuff for I've done Call of Duty series and Bioshock, Final Fantasy, Armored Core. I've done some pretty good. I mean, as far as I'm a gamer, so like Bioshock and Final Fantasy, and some of those are ones I'm kind of like pretty cool to be a part of because I was huge fans. Anyway, Bioshock had System Shock, what was the games before that, so I kind of knew. I mean, I was reading up all about it and do whatever, and then when I got the audition, it was like it's as exciting as sometimes the big TV auditions or whatever for me, because like, well, Bioshock, yeah, right. I want that job, man. So. And then you get it, and I'm telling you, man, I've told this story, but my friends are huge gamers too, and I call them up and it's like, I got a TV show, like, oh, congrats, that's great, whatever. But any more game stuff? It's an NBC. It's a prime time, like a pretty. It's a lead. It's one of the lead. Like one of the. Yeah, it's cool. Bioshock 2? Right. No, not in Bioshock 2. No, that's cool.
That's cool.
So yeah, I mean, we were all, yeah, it's huge.
Now, what is that like working on a set like that? Are you in a booth doing voiceover work, or how do you do that?
It's funny, and it's cool that they kind of include that now sometimes in the behind-the-scenes stuff, because it's just funny to see, like, Bioshock. Yes, you're in a booth, and it's headphones, a microphone, and padded walls, which is where you belong. Right. Yeah, but. And in Bioshock, it was funny because there were so many different death animations. So it's a very fine line between screaming because you're being mauled by a pack of bumblebees, or electrocuted, or flamethrowered. Is that flamethrowered? Right. So it was like, that was more like on fire. Now this is like your bees. Yeah, that's good. But that's still more towards the electrocuted thing. And so you're like, right. I don't know about bees. All right, hold on a second. So you literally wind up having to. Wait. So now you're in a booth, literally going like it's. You have to do it. You have to act it out. So I'm sure they're sitting there going, and I'm sure the booth guy, the engineers are going, right. Like they have to get a kick out of pushing someone to flailing around, right. But it's fun.
And you're heavily dependent on the director in this instance because you're not hearing anyone else, right?
That's right. And it's exactly right, which is that was the biggest one for me, was one-sided dialogue. You know what I mean? So you'd be like, what are you talking about? Where is the Earth Stone? I'm paraphrasing. And then, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? It's just that whole sort of idea of things like that, and that's why I think sometimes that's why, unfortunately, video game dialogue tends to be a little stale. I wish that they would put them in all the same room and kind of have some of that. But
I love that. That scream is like you're being burned, not like bees are chasing you.
Yeah, that's a good scream. That's good, but that was more like the burn scream.
That's awesome. Yeah. We got another question from the person. He's begging. But this is the person that told us that the Yankees lost, so I don't know if that's a good thing in his favor.
He was honest. He was honest with me.
But he wants to know, PSI wants to know what your gamer tag is. Do you have a gamer tag? Is that like your handle or something?
It is like my handle.
I'm completely not a game person.
It is my handle. I keep my handle close to me, though.
Close to the vest, yeah.
I actually created one for which is the De Morgan.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like sort of.
So that's like the false number that women give out to
kind
guys
of.
at bars. That's your false.
Believe me, right, but it's not. But at least it's not like Pizza Hut or something, and you call it and you're like, you're like, oh, are you kidding me? She gave me a Pizza Hut number. It's an actual working gamer tag, I promise you.
Okay. And what was it one more time then?
The De Morgan.
The De Morgan.
Yeah,
Biscuit would like to ask, what characters were you on Bioshock and Final Fantasy?
Characters on Final Fantasy was for Final Fantasy 10-2, so it was that offshoot one, and I was, if I remember correctly, I was Barrel Eye. And Bioshock, I did a couple of different ones. I think the main role that I did got cut down into, he was the blue-skinned splicer who would call out. You'd hear him, because I remember cracking up, and he would do a lot of the weird, just like a lot of that Bioshock. He would scream, like, "Is that what you want, Dad? Is that what you want?" And he, just like all these random, weird, tortured things. He was this kid who he wanted, his dad wanted to be a football player, and he wasn't very good, and so he's this tortured sort of soul, as most of the characters were in Bioshock. But I don't recall if he had a specific name. But I was one of the splicers that would sneak up on you and say a bunch of obscene things and get mauled by bees.
Right, there you go. Is there a video game that is out there where there can be a sequel, or one that hasn't been made into one yet, that you would like to voice or work on?
Oh yeah. Well, what's funny is
if Ghostbusters, if they were to make a game.
Funny you should say that, because they did make a game and I'm not in it, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, again, one is work is work, but as far as a fan goes, yeah, I mean, I'd love to be a part of some of the universes that I would love to have been in. There's a game called Mass Effect that these guys BioWare do, and huge fan of those games right now. The first one, and I can't wait for the sequel. But I mean, Halo and Gears of War. I mean, some of the bigger ones just because they're so big. Adam Baldwin he's in Halo, and me and Zach want to punch him in his face.
Well, you can do it. Just do it.
We can team up on him.
Do it on cut.
Yeah. I think both of us could. If we do the old, I take out the legs and he tags them from the top. We got him.
Now, I mentioned also Without a Trace. You kind of went in the middle of that run, season 5 or 6, maybe?
Yeah,
I think?
yeah.
4 or 5.
4,
I think. So what was it like joining that set? How did the crew take to you and the other actors coming in the middle of the run as a regular for that season or something?
I gotta say, they were really, really cool. Again, I didn't have a huge role, but like an important role. And because I was in almost every episode that season, where they would at least have like 2 or 3 scenes that were really important to the story. Where this guy Mac, they called my character, was this computer tech and helped them solve these mysteries and solve these crimes or whatever. And but here was a show that I was walking in on that had been up and running for 4 or 5 years, and they had like clockwork. I mean, they were awesome. But so sweet and just professional, and I just learned a lot. What I did, I just kind of shut up and watched and learned and some of the caliber of actors that were around me, Paglia and down. It was just like, it was amazing. So yeah, I just watched and learned, and they were all very, very sweet to me, and it was a really cool learning experience.
And then how would you compare that set to the Chuck set?
The complete opposite.
Complete opposite.
Not professional.
Not professional.
No.
Not smooth.
Totally.
You show up, no one knows what the hell's going on.
I don't know how we even got a season 2. Right. Never mind a season 3. No, our crew and our set. I mean, that is it never fails that we have somebody, whether it be a family member or somebody outside that'll spend the day and will come visit us or do whatever, and then they'll tell me, I cannot believe from top to bottom how helpful, how wonderful, what an amazing set and cast and crew that you have and it's true. I mean, it's really one of those special things. I think that it's just a joy to go to work. I think, and it's hard work, especially for the crew. It's a tough, long day.
How long are your days?
For those guys, a good day, they're out of there 12, 13 hours. They're jumping up and down for a 12 or 13 hour day. It can go 16, 17 for those guys easily. So it's long. And they don't have the fun. I mean, ours is, it's strenuous to be on the other side of the camera as well, but it's so much fun,
right.
For us. I mean, at least that's how I think of it. I mean, anytime the camera's on, we do whatever, I'm having a good time. Those guys, it's not, I'm sure it's not as fun, to see me go like, oh, sorry, I'll get it this time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like for the 17th time, like, I'm going to kill this guy, rip his beard off, jerk, get home, watch my Yankees, lose.
I know it's
to the Red
fake.
Sox. Yeah, I know, yeah.
So speaking of the crew, is there who would you say has the most difficult job on the crew, or are they all different? but
yeah,
different but difficult.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I would be hard pressed to it's all pretty tough. I mean, you know, ADs, the PAs, the grips and electric. I mean, craft service. I mean, all of it. They're all working so hard. And I know who doesn't have the hardest job.
So then how much time is spent prepping a scene and getting it ready versus then actually shooting it?
You know, surprisingly, for TV, not a lot for prepping. You know, we usually get, I mean, there's probably a little time for lighting and setting up, and that usually takes, just because it's so much technical stuff, you know, breaking down scaffolds and setting up lighting and doing all that stuff. But we come in, we get brought in, you know, hey, scene 48 is up. Okay, right. You know, either you, or, you know, most actors know it, not me. I kind of get to the thing, well, okay, 48, oh, yeah, I got it. I'm just going to, you know, for now, I'm just going to read it. And so you rehearse it maybe twice, 3 times, kind of walk through it. They kind of, you know, you ask the DP, you ask the guys, you got it? You think you know what, you know, they mark us out. You know, what's blocking, you know.
Blocking, they put down the tape.
Tapes, kind of, that's the thing. I'll probably want to stopping here, talking to Zach, then I'll move, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And then you're back in your trailer watching TV. So it's not a hard job. Right. And they're setting up all the stuff, you know.
How many cameras do you guys shoot with?
We shoot with 2. Mm-hmm. We have 2 usually at all times. And sometimes we'll have 1 if it's not if it's not needed.
Now, you did a 3D episode last year, is that right?
Yeah.
Any chance of doing another one, or how did that go? Was that a popular episode?
I mean, it's tough. I think it was. I mean, it did well. I think it's an awesome idea. I remember doing the making of it was a really cool experience because it was such, again, from a learning experience, it was such a, you know, these big, huge new cameras, and, you know, just in between takes we'd all run over like, you know, like kids, because none of us, and we put on the glasses. But the technology that they did was is that amazing 3D stuff that, you know, you get like in the movie, you know, the really good glasses, and then it's amazing. Then unfortunately, and on hindsight, the stuff that you got at home, it was tough for viewers sometimes, I think, to find the glasses. And when they did, that color coding one is not quite as good as the legit, you know, that special screen and those glasses. It's the technology is ridiculous.
So like what you guys were watching on set on playback was awesome.
Unreal.
And the home viewer couldn't.
It was cool. I mean, it was good. I watched it,
right.
and it was cool. It was definitely cool, and it's fun, and I always enjoy 3D. But it wasn't what I think it will be probably
in the future.
Yeah.
Let's see. Fear EDX wants to know, Firefly Serenity fan by chance?
Yeah, no, I'm not as hardcore as some,
right.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I dug the movie, and but yeah, I'm not as wasn't as huge as when I walk anywhere with the big guy.
Well, it's funny when you say that, because sometimes I'll think I'm a fan of a show,
right,
and then I'll go into message boards of that show and be like, oh, you know what, I'm really not that big a fan.
That's what right, exactly.
Really, you know?
I remember liking it, I remember enjoying it, yeah, and then you go like, but I don't know if I get to claim fandom on this one. Right. Yeah.
Let's see, Razorback would like to ask, does Josh ever go on the fan boards, and speaking of fan boards, and read what people have to say?
You know, I did. I think when the show started, I've since learned, the internet can be a cold, evil place, right. An unfriendly world. And so in the beginning, I think, because I was so intrigued by the, you know, this new show, and I had, you know, it was my first big show like this, and so you know, yeah, you're just sort of like, wow, what does everybody think, and whatever. And then first you know, any bad comment or anything, you know, it's just like, oh. And you click on, oh, and then you start searching for, again, that's my own, for some reason, booze, negativity. Booze, negativity. I don't know what it is about that combination. But then you start searching for bad stuff. What else bad are people saying about me?
Well, in getting ready for the show, I was on the NBC Chuck 4 message boards. You know, all the characters have their own little thread, and nothing but love.
Oh, that's cool.
In the Joshua Gomez thread. You know,
right, not the Morgan. Right,
if I went into the bar,
I hate
thread,
this
exactly.
guy. Yeah.
You know, maybe.
Josh Gomez is awesome. I've seen him on interviews. Very nice guy. His character I want to kill.
P.S. I want to ask, did you go to high school drama, or did acting just happen in his life, or then how did you break into acting?
I did not, actually. I did not do a drama in high school. You know, as a younger than that, when I was probably in elementary school stuff, I remember doing plays, and my father was a musician and heavily involved with music and doing that stuff, so he would write plays and do stuff like that, and put me and my brother in them. And then I kind of steered away from that, and you know, I actually had a huge love for music, and I lived in New Jersey, born and raised in New Jersey, and then moved to New York City, and to kind of pursue music, And I realized, let's have a backup plan. So acting, not exactly the smartest backup plan, but I was lucky. But yeah, I still a huge love of music, but I just felt like that acting. Once I started to once I really went forward, there was no looking back. It was just seemed like a natural fit.
And your first big break?
I guess I would have to say big. I don't know about big break. I mean, I started to do commercials in New York City, and I did a series of these IBM.com commercials with an actor's name, Michael Stoyanov, who's actually the older brother on a TV show called Blossom. I don't know if anybody remembers these commercials, but they were. I did a bunch of them. I think over the 2-year span, we must have done like 20-something, national commercials, which is a huge deal, especially to a kid starving in New York City. All of a sudden it was like checks are coming in from these commercials. You're like, oh my God, I can eat. I can buy video games. That's actually probably what I was thinking. So that was, I remember that being my and that kind of afforded me, and like anytime you have a job, that's the thing with acting, just one job buys you enough time to hopefully get to another job, and that's what it did for a little while, so that was cool.
Well, I was listening to a past interview of yours, I guess it must be a while back, because one of the questions that you were asked in that interview was, would you ever be like on a celebrity on a reality show or anything? And you said you weren't sure. So you didn't say no, you didn't say yes. You had the right circumstance, and lo and behold, since that time, you appeared on an episode of The Last Comic Standing, right? Right. This past season.
Right.
Now,
that I have no problem. Yeah, like Celebrity Rehab or something like that. That's when and believe me, it might not be too far away. I got
we just got to put a lot of negative comments on you on the internet.
Right, exactly. And then negativity. Yeah, Last Comic Standing, man. I had no idea what to expect, and but it wound up being a really cool experience.
Now you were a judge, so you judged the talent.
I did.
Now, what did you think? Did you happen to see the eventual winner, Eliza Schlesinger, and what did you think of her?
I was one of the. I happened to see Eliza on the first night she performed on the show that season, and. That was so cool when I discovered that she has
lo and behold,
huh?
She is a host on thestream.tv, the weekly news. Fantastic.
It's so cool. That's so cool. She was awesome. And I remember I thought she was a no-brainer from the first time I saw her, and.
Now, did you vote on her, or for her, against her? How did that work with the judges?
It was weird. If I remember correctly, it was this weird. First of all, there's the preliminary before what everybody sees as an audience. The episode that they actually tape. We saw tons of comedians come in, and you just do the whole like thank you, there's a lot of that stuff. And then they might show that in like little clips and stuff like that. But you sit there and you wade through a bunch of stuff, and then we sent through who we sent through. We picked I think 30.
Right.
At the end of the day, I think it was like 30 went through, or maybe it was less than that actually. I don't quite remember. But Eliza was one of them, and then that's the show that they tape, and then they do their performance for the live audience and for the television audience and stuff, and then. Pretty much, we have our opinion, but the producers and everybody else kind of, they make their picks as well, and everybody kind of pulls in their opinions, and it was an interesting experience, And I remember Eliza. I remember the name. It was like there's a lot of thought behind. Is there too many girls? Is there too many guys? You know what I mean? You never know. Like, like this is still a television show, and it's this thing, and but she made it through, and then from that first time, she might have squeaked through that first time or whatever it was, if I remember. Although I thought she was great, and then she just took off.
Yeah, well, the boys kept picking on her, and they kept inadvertently giving her more time for the audience to get to know her and like her and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So is that something you do again, whether it be on Last Comic Standing or another show? Was that an enjoyable experience for you?
I gotta say, it was cool. I was honored that they asked me, and it was absolutely cool. But the one thing I found a little bit weird for myself was being on that side of things. It was a strange one for me. I mean, up to this point, everything I've ever done was being the guy.
Being judged.
Tap dancing for the,
in essence,
Yeah, being judged, absolutely, and which I can't stand. And so then I got to, I didn't know, so every answer I tried to give was always trying to be positive. I mean, there were some people that probably didn't show that were just awful. I just have that sort of Paula Abdul thing going, where it's just like, you're great, honey.
You're not the Simon.
No, I was so Paula, I'd cried fake tears, Right. And, but yeah, it was just
got drunk after the show.
Yeah, there you go, adoring, Yeah, but so to me it was like, it was fun and it was an interesting experience, but I prefer I don't want to be the guy. I mean, although it's easier, right. but it was just as painful in some respects because I don't know. It was really weird. Yeah.
Matt Man would like to ask, I can't think of any questions. Well, then you shouldn't be IMing into a live show. No, I'm kidding. For Josh, I'm too amazed by his awesomeness. Hi, Josh. So you want to say hello to Matt Man in the camera?
What's up, man?
Matt Man, say hi.
Matt Man, what up, dude?
Okay, let's
awesomeness.
See.
It's the beard. It's the beard. It pulls you in, a vortex of hair.
Didn't mean to be rude for you, Matt Man. Thanks for chiming in. He's a regular. Let's see, the Bebob. How long are your shooting days on, Chuck? I think you answered that. And do you have your own trailer? So shooting days are about, what, 14 hours you were saying?
Yeah, I would say on average. They shoot for a 12-hour day. We shoot for a 12-hour day. That's ideal, and it goes over. And what happens is every time it goes over, it gets tacked on a little further. So by the time you get to like a Friday or the end of the week, you're starting later because it keeps getting pushed back. So it starts later and obviously ends earlier. So in other words, like, you know, so it's like we call it Friday morning. You know, it's like you get out and the sun's out on Saturday. You're like, oh Lord.
Do you get your own trailer? Do you share it with the Nerd Herd or?
Share it? No, yeah, no. We everybody right now so far in the show we're split up. We have it's one trailer. It's two trailer. One trailer split up into two. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I happen to share mine with Yvonne. So yeah. How you like that, fellas? Yeah.
Adam may get her on camera, but you get her off
Adam
camera.
And Zach share.
or Zachary, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. But I get her in the trailer.
You get her in the trailer.
I don't mean.
Biscuit, what is your favorite video game?
Of all time? Can he quickly tell me that's what he wants to? Holy cow! I don't know.
Is there one of the moment then?
I mean, I don't know. It's so tough for me, man. I love all of them. Like I said, I think over the recently it's been Mass Effect was a huge one. Knights of the Old Republic, same thing. The same guys who did Mass Effect did the game, Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars game. Man, I mean, all time. I mean, I don't know.
You ever go old school, Pac-Man? Old Pac-Man.
Yeah, I love old school games. Speaking of old school, one of my favorites was a game, Ghosts and Goblins. Was it's one of my favorite games. If you want to go old school, new school, I love the first Halo. They've since sort of, they've kind of decreased somewhat in my liking. But the first one I think is amazing, and we still play a lot of Gears online, Gears of War online, and yeah.
Now, I know you said you haven't seen any scripts, but any idea of storylines or any spoilers or any tidbits, nuggets, morsels of any kind?
No, I wish. I really honestly wish. I haven't. Since we got the season 3 announcement, I think we kind of got like an email or two from Schwartz saying like, we did it, and then it's been silence, and I think they must be, I'm sure they're probably just hammering away on scripts right now, and so I haven't even heard from them.
Cherry Pie wants to know what is up next for Josh, any desire to direct?
You know, I was just asked that recently by just a friend of mine with that, and I don't, not really. I think there's still so much I want to do in front of the camera, like learn how to act.
God, that's terrible.
I know.
You do a great job on show. What are you talking about?
Well, no, that's all. That's no. So I'm actually really comfortable. I really enjoy being an actor. I really enjoy entertaining people, and I just love doing what I'm doing. Maybe one day, but I don't. I just Chuck, and then Ghostbusters, and then.
We hope, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
It's funny. What I was telling you at the beginning of the interview, I think you do a great job of making your character believable. It would be so easy to play your character in such a way where you didn't believe your lines, where you're just kind of saying them and you don't. They're real to you, so that makes it real to the audience. One of my favorite lines of yours is, "Help me, Chuck Barkowski, you're my only hope."
Yeah.
You know, and like lines like that, you deliver so freaking seriously, and you believe it. That it's real.
Yeah, thank you.
That's like you wouldn't believe, if you describe Morgan, I almost wouldn't think that he was real, but you make him real because it's kind of like Ed O'Neill with Al Bundy. It's
right.
Like, it's like, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's interesting. Thank you so much, first of all. But it threads that line, and that's the funny thing. It is a hard line to thread because some of the things that start to become asked of Morgan or myself playing Morgan. Can get to that place of like, it's not based in so much reality anymore. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, well, really, dude? Hibachi chef? Or whatever it might be. Like you go, but that's the thing. But it's all about you know what I mean? Like this kid, Morgan is this dead real to him. You know what I mean? And this is his so when and it's tough. You know, like I said, sometimes as an actor you kind of go like, my natural instinct is I want Morgan to be the most badass guy. In my head, you know what I mean? He's got like double barrel guns and he's gonna help. You know what I mean? But like then I read it and I'm like, oh damn, you know. But once it's Morgan, once I put on the green shirt, it switches to that thing, and then he's, you know, that's that's all he's really known. That's his whole life is kind of wrapped up in Chuck and this store, and you know, so yeah, thank you, it's cool.
Oh, my pleasure. Now, in addition to gaming, I know you've also been to Comic Cons. Is that fun for you? I've seen little YouTube videos of you and Zachary there having seemingly a great time together.
Oh yeah, we have a good time. I don't know what you're referring to.
It's the bromance.
drink, negativity. It's so much fun, and me and Zach spoke about the fact that you know I had never gone until Chuck kind of brought me there, which was again one of those things when you like I always wanted to go, and.
What is Comic Con for people who don't know?
It's you know a comic book convention. This is essentially all.
But then TV shows are there like Chuck and.
Absolutely, it became this gigantic. Huge place to launch television shows and movies and you know all these different kind of properties. So it's sort of like now the shows thrive on it. I mean, it certainly did. It helped our show immensely. Our first showing at Comic Con, where Mick G made Zach and I 69 each other in front of the panel. You know, in front of the panel. But that you know, I mean, again, those kind of things that happen at Comic Con are it's huge because then people go out there and they talk about it, and there's so many 300,000 people that go to that thing. So it's a lot of fun, and to be invited to go, as my point was that like I always wanted to go just as a fan, but to be invited is even cooler, you know.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Let's see. An honest fraud would like to ask: on the show, Morgan is knowledgeable in the cuisine, and wanted to train to be a chef. Does Joshua have the same interest in food?
No, I have one of the. I am awful at. First of all, I've been a vegetarian for 17, 18 years. So any girl I've ever dated, and my current girlfriend is just like, you know, going out to dinner with me is the most boring, most uneventful, you know. So
no mutton for you?
No. I mean, it's like, you know, tomato sauce is like exciting. You know, a little basil, you know, will get me, you know, gets me all fired up. And cooking at home is just like microwaving a veggie burger. Right. So that's about as far as it goes.
The Bebop. Are you going to Dragon Con this fall?
Not that I know of. I'd like to check that out. We went to.
Is that a gaming deal?
Yeah, I think it's. I think it's a multiple. Mm-hmm. But like we went to WonderCon, which I guess is another offshoot of. It was kind of like Comic Con, a little bit smaller in San Francisco. That was really cool. That was really cool. But no, Dragon Con I've heard about. I think Adam Baldwin goes to all those things, all those cons. He's a hero. He's like he walks around like a god at those places. Adam Baldwin. He is a god, I guess.
This looks like a fun question. Rebecca 5 wants to know, how hard are shooting scenes at the Buy-More? Do the extras ever freak you out?
That's awesome. Not hard and yes. No, they're actually they're so much fun. We have some of the fun. I mean, you talk about. I think I know who she's probably specifically referring to. We have some good guys there, and their looks are just amazing. And they actually have character names now. There was guys that came on our show that were there as background and as you know.
But they're regular. They're there all the time.
Yeah, they are exactly. And featured. So then we feature right, yeah. And now they have names from their name tags or whatever. But now they're in the script. Sometimes you'll be like. It'll refer to them, like, and blah, blah, blah walks past and looks at Morgan funny, or it does whatever, and you're like, it's cool, it's awesome.
That's Bob, I know him.
Yeah. So, and the Buy-More, as far as the Buy-More, it was a little tricky at first just learning a new set, I think, for everybody, but now it's probably the easiest place and the place that our crew likes to shoot the most because it is, they know it. Now it's home, now it's very easy. They know how to light it and how to switch it around and how to make everything work. And so it's probably the easiest, it's probably the easiest of the days is what is the Buy-More days.
What was tricky at first then?
I think that it was such a big set that I wouldn't even know that I just know
learning the intricacies of lighting it and so forth.
Lighting it and all the angles of it and what we see in this place we don't need to be seeing, and it was a big open set. And once they learned that now and now they kind of got it on there, it's like I think it's really easy for them.
Ever that bizarre extra who was just there for one day looking at you funny that made you feel weird?
No, Was there? Is there?
Has there ever been that situation?
Yeah, there's, it's always a fun experience. They're trying their hardest. They're trying to do the same thing that I was trying to do and am still trying to do or doing. And I know it's a tough gig, and background work's extremely tough, and it's a long day, and it's not very eventful, and you're getting herded around like cattle sometimes. And so I love taking the time and talking to them and hanging out when I can. And but yeah, you meet some fascinating characters.
Wonderful, good deal. Well, that means I'll know it's safe to say hello to you when that's me.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Website guy. Now that there is going to be a season 3, yay! What storyline would you like to see from Morgan? So I know you don't know of anything in particular, but is there any wish if you can go to Josh and say, hey, can Morgan do this season?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably not. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I personally like to see. I think the main one is definitely I would like to see the bromance rekindled. Because
in season 2?
Yeah, I feel like it was necessary. It was what it did was it set up Chuck in the spy world, and it was something that was. It's just where the show went. That he was really kind of getting submersed in the spy world. And it was sort of, and in a way, Chuck kind of became almost these 2 separate shows, just kind of like interweaving. I mean, that was always what it kind of was. But the Buy More kind of was the Buy More show in a way, and so there was these 2 different shows, and I think that the show is at its peak when something like the Christmas episode or something, when all those characters and everybody's together, it's when I think it makes it so unique, because. Adam Baldwin's surrounded by nerd herds and tights and little elves walking. You know what I mean? It's like anytime those situations can present themselves, I think the show that excels. But as far as Morgan is concerned, I think that because personally I have such a great time working with Zach. I think we have such that chemistry that at least helped me earn the job and do whatever. I'd like to see that. So whatever, hope maybe Morgan snoops around and gets wind of a certain whatever could help maybe have us a little more Sam and Diane.
That's right. There you go. Bring it back full circle. I love it.
Sure.
Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, season 1, for people who haven't seen it yet, is available on Netflix. Season 2 is coming, so you can reserve it and save it. And season 3, I believe, will air in March.
March, right? I guess right after the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
On NBC.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Now, before we let you out of here, do you have a favorite set term speak?
I guess 10-2 is my favorite thing to
10-2?
Sure.
And for those who are not in the know, Brian Grimaud, what does that mean?
Oh, you want me to jump in here?
Yeah, why not?
I'm sorry, I'm giddy that he's here beyond the capacity for rational thought. Ghostbusters line.
Yeah.
10-2 is when you need to, go use the powder room for an extended period of time. Instead of 10-1 would be a shorter room to give the pleasant answer.
There you go. Very nice. So
10-1, 10-2.
So I
prefer 10-2. It's a little more relaxing. I enjoy my 10-2s.
Take a comic book with you?
Oh, absolutely. Comic book, video game manual, and I 10-2 it up all afternoon.
And then you hear,
and then, of course, gun. You're needed in 5 minutes. Oh, crap. Wait, let him.
Well, good deal. So we've got season 3 in March. We've got Ghostbusters 3 in the works.
From your mouth to the interweb.
It has been a pleasure having you on and talking to you. I, too, am also a big fan of the show, in case you can't tell.
Thank you so much.
And I'll look forward to more great work from you in the future.
I look forward to hopefully giving it to you.
There you go.
Thank you so much for having me.
To everyone who sent in questions, I want to thank you so much for doing that. I am sorry we did not get to all of them. I know we have plenty more backed up in the I Am loop. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sending in the questions. Again, sorry we cannot get to all of them. That is going to do it for this edition of Filmnut. We will, oh wait, I am so glad I remembered this before I signed off. We had Dan Curry on the show, who was the visual effects supervisor on Chuck. So if you are a fan of Chuck watching this episode, I think off the top of my head, ooh, Brian, I think it's episode 316. 316?
316, yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. Check that one out, fans of Chuck, visual effects. We talked about how they do the effects on that show, also on Star Trek if you're interested. Now, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Filmnut.
Huh?